Funai. The company Funai Electric was founded in Japan in 1961 by entrepreneur Tetsuro Funai. Back in the early 1950s, Funai's father was involved in the production of sewing machines, and young Tetsuro inherited this business, opening Funai Sewing Machine in 1951 to trade and assemble sewing machines. With the advent of the transistor era, Funai saw new opportunities in the electronics market. In 1959, the company changed its name to Funai Light Machinery Manufacturing and began producing transistor radios. Funai began manufacturing custom radio receivers for major Western brands, supplying products to leading manufacturers in the United States and Europe. The success of the business allowed the electronics division to be spun off into a separate company in 1961, resulting in the establishment of Funai Electric, registered in Osaka. From the outset, Funai focused on the foreign market. In 1962, the company opened a representative office in Chicago to promote its products. In the 1960s, Funai finally established its position in the industry, audio equipment and consumer electronics. However, it is important to understand that Funai products were most often sold under various Western brands, remaining little known to the end consumer under their own name. One of the company's achievements during those years was the development of reel-to-reel tape recorder technology. Funai invested in mechatronics and precision motor control systems for reel-to-reel systems. By the end of the 1960s, Funai already had several factories. In addition to assembly lines in Osaka, plants were opened on the island of Taiwan and in various prefectures of Japan: Hiroshima, Tokushima, Okayama. In 1968, the company began mass production of 8-track car stereos, systems based on 8-track cartridges, a popular format for car stereo players at the time. Production volumes were so high that Funai set a world record for the production of 8-track car stereo systems. At the same time, in 1969, the company began manufacturing stationary hi-fi systems for home use. Thus, by the early 1970s, Funai's product line included virtually all of the major audio equipment of the time, from portable radios and car stereos to home components. By 1977, Funai had begun producing cassette decks for home audio. Numerous OEM contracts ensured the company's widespread presence in foreign markets. Despite its successes, the 1970s brought serious challenges. Due to changes in the country's economy, the company temporarily found itself in crisis. Funai's management took unusual measures. Senior engineers went to learn from the Hino automobile plant, part of the Toyota Group. Upon their return, they introduced elements of the Toyota production system into Funai, developing their own FPS, Funai Production System. Production optimization and cost reduction not only allowed the company to emerge from the crisis, but also laid the foundation for future growth. By the end of the 1970s, Funai, which had focused on audio equipment since its inception, decided on a strategic shift, switching to the production of video devices. Even before the triumph of VHS, the company, in collaboration with the American Technicolor, developed the compact video standard CVC. It was a smaller video cassette designed for portable video recorders and was positioned as a competitor to VHS and Betamax. The project attracted interest. For example, Japanese television journalists used CVC cameras to film on Mount Everest. However, it failed to enter the mass market in time. The ensuing format war between VHS and Betamax left CVC on the sidelines. However, the company did not abandon the new direction. On the contrary, a few years later it bet on a standard that would defeat all competitors. In 1983-1984, Funai finally switched to VHS. The first branded VHS video recorders under the Funai brand hit the market in 1984. One of the debut models was the Funai VP1000 video player. Initially, without its own serial tape drive mechanism, Funai purchased VCR chassis from a third-party manufacturer, Shintom. But thanks to the experience gained during the CVC era, engineers quickly established production of key video deck components at their own facilities. By the mid-1980s, Funai was able to completely localize the production of VCR mechanisms, sharply reducing production costs. By 1990, Funai had become the largest manufacturer of basic VCRs in Japan. It should be noted that Funai managed to occupy a niche in the supply of video players for the rental industry. While electronics giants were fighting for technical superiority, Funai quietly increased its production of inexpensive and easy-to-use VCRs. In 1983, Funai surprised the market by releasing the arcade game Interstellar on Laserdisc, one of the first games to use pre-rendered 3D graphics. Although arcade machines did not become the company's main business, this fact underscores the technical prowess of Funai's engineers. In the mid-1980s, the company branched out into other products. In 1985, Funai launched a production of microwave ovens and entered the telephony market, developing one of the first cordless home phones without an external antenna. However, video remained the key focus. In the 1980s, Funai opened divisions in Germany, the United Kingdom, Singapore, and Malaysia. Also in the mid-1980s, the production of color CRT televisions was established. Combo devices, televisions with built-in VCRs, were particularly successful. Over time, these devices became bestsellers in North America. More than 60% of all televisions with VCRs sold in the United States were manufactured by Funai. In 1991, the company opened a subsidiary, Funai USA Corporation, in New Jersey to sell products on the American market. However, this did not mean that the Funai brand had literally arrived in the United States. In most cases, Funai equipment was sold through large US chains under the brands of their customers. By 1993, Funai had completely transferred the assembly of VHS video recorders to China. This radically reduced production costs and gave Funai a price advantage over competitors who still maintained production in Japan or the US. The turning point came when Funai began supplying electronics to the American store chain Walmart, which immediately led to a sharp increase in sales. In 1997, Funai was the first in the industry to release a video recorder priced below $100, a symbolic psychological barrier that manufacturers had long been unable to overcome. This budget VHS player was sold in the United States under the Philips Magnavox brand and became a bestseller of its time. As a result, by the end of the 1990s, Funai had become the world's largest manufacturer of basic VCR models, and the company's founder, Tetsuro Funai, went down in history as the first Japanese billionaire, in dollar terms, in the consumer electronics sector. When a new technology appeared on the horizon, DVD, Funai did not stand aside. As soon as the DVD standard was established, the company quickly adopted it. By 2001, Funai had released its first DVD player costing less than $100, repeating the same cost-cutting tactics it had previously applied to VHS. The transition from analog VHS to digital DVD was painless for Funai. Maintaining its reputation as a supplier of the most affordable devices, the company began to flood the market with inexpensive DVD players. It gained a particularly strong foothold in North America, where Funai, including OEM products, accounted for a significant share of DVD player and recorder sales. The company began manufacturing DVD devices not only under its own name, but also on behalf of other well-known manufacturers. Large US retail chains purchased thousands of units from Funai factories. This led to Funai becoming the Eminence Grise of the American electronics market, remaining behind the scenes. Among the brands under which Funai products were manufactured were names well known to American consumers: Emerson, Magnavox, Sylvania, Symphonic, Sanyo, and others. In fact, when buying a cheap TV or video player at Walmart, Americans often purchased a product designed and manufactured by Funai, even though the case bore a different name. In the early 2000s, Funai actively engaged in the development of flat-screen television production. Within a few years of starting production of LCD televisions, Funai became the leader in North America in terms of sales volume in its segment. This primarily concerned inexpensive small and medium-sized models, which were supplied to retail chains on a massive scale. Combined devices also developed. In addition to the already familiar TV plus VCR, combined DVD-VCR combos appeared. By the mid-2000s, Dutch company Philips had decided to wind down its own television production for the North American market and was looking for a partner to take over the business. The choice fell on Funai. In 2008, Philips signed a contract with Funai, under which the Japanese company received exclusive rights to license, manufacture, and distribute televisions under the Philips and Magnavox brands in North America for a period of 7 years. To implement this agreement, Funai created a special Philips and Funai division in the United States. From that moment on, all Philips and Magnavox televisions sold in the United States were actually manufactured by Funai. In January 2013, it was announced that Funai would acquire Philips' remaining consumer electronics business, the Lifestyle Entertainment division, and obtain a global license to use the Philips brand for all electronics. The deal was valued at approximately $200 million and was supposed to transform Funai into an international player with its own well-known brand. However, the plans were not destined to come to life. In October 2013, Philips terminated the agreement, accusing Funai of violating the terms of the deal. A legal dispute ensued, and the acquisition fell through. Funai remained as it was, continuing to operate only under its initial regional license. In addition to Philips, Funai expanded its brand portfolio. For example, in 2014, the company acquired the rights to the Sanyo brand for televisions in the US market from Panasonic. Cooperation with other brands continued. The Emerson and Symphonic lines, Funai's own brand for inexpensive VHS DVD equipment, were retained, and so on. In the mid-2010s, Funai even attempted to enter the American market under its own Funai brand, planning to sell HD TVs, Blu-ray players, and even digital cameras with the Funai logo. However, the brand did not achieve much success in the US, remaining relatively unknown. In addition to DVDs, the company mastered the production of Blu-ray players when the new format began to replace DVDs at the end of the decade. Funai released its first Blu-ray players around 2008, including under the Magnavox brand for the US market. By the early 2010s, Funai's main focus remained on televisions and players, although the market was changing rapidly under the pressure of streaming services and smart devices. In 2010, Tetsuro Funai stepped down from management, with Tomonori Hayashi taking over as president, although the founder himself remained chairman of the board of directors. The company celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2011, but difficult times lay ahead. Sales of classic devices, DVD players, simple LCD TVs without smart features, began to decline. Funai, which had made a name for itself in the mass market, faced growing competition from South Korean and, in particular, Chinese manufacturers. One symbolic milestone was the final demise of VHS video recorders. Funai remained the last company in the world to manufacture VHS devices for a long time. Even when everyone else had switched to DVD and then streaming, there was still demand in some markets for combined DVD-VHS devices. Funai filled this niche by assembling combo players at its Chinese factories under the Sanyo, Magnavox, Emerson, and other brands. However, by 2016, demand had dried up. In July 2016, Funai announced that it was discontinuing the production of VCRs. This news marked the end of an era. The VHS format had lasted 40 years since its launch, and Funai was its last guardian. Seeking to compensate for falling revenues from traditional electronics, Funai looked for new opportunities. For example, Funai acquired Lexmark's entire printer manufacturing business. And in 2016, Funai entered into an agreement with Eastman Kodak to license the Kodak brand for a new line of consumer printers. Under the Kodak Verit brand, Funai began selling inkjet MFPs and consumables, banking on the Kodak brand's reputation in the field of photo printing. In 2017, the company launched sales of its own Funai televisions on the Japanese market. Modern models were presented, including 4K OLED televisions. Funai attempted to revive the brand in its homeland by appealing to nostalgia and Japanese quality. In 2019, the company also surprised everyone with a new gadget, a nail printer, which applies designs to the nail plate, in an attempt to enter the beauty device market. However, all these efforts failed to compensate for the overall decline in the competitiveness of the core business. In the 2020s, Funai Electric Corporation found itself on the brink of collapse. The culmination came in the autumn of 2024, when the Tokyo District Court approved the procedure initiated by one of the directors for the de facto bankruptcy of Funai, a special property management plan, without waiting for the official decision of the board of directors. Approximately 530 employees were immediately dismissed, and salary payments were suspended. Funai's management, led by then-chairman Yoshioki Hirota, attempted to challenge the decision, claiming that the company could be rehabilitated, but the appeal was rejected by the Tokyo High Court. An attempt to initiate external administration, civil rehabilitation, also failed, as the court deemed the plan unrealistic. The assets of the legendary company were auctioned off. By 2025, the remaining valuable divisions had been acquired by other players in the industry. The television manufacturing business, including a long-term contract with Walmart, and the service department in Japan came under the control of the Chinese manufacturer Skyworth. Thus, Funai Electric effectively ceased to exist as an independent company. By 2025, Funai is in the process of liquidation. Now, all that remains of the once great manufacturer are brand images and some of the technology that has been transferred to new owners. Nevertheless, Funai's legacy lives on indirectly. Budget TVs and players are still sold in US supermarkets, but they are now manufactured by other companies under the same old brands, Sanyo, Magnavox, Emerson. The name Funai has virtually disappeared, but it will forever remain in the history of electronics as the company that gave the world a multitude of affordable devices and became a symbol of the entire VHS and DVD era.